Welcome to The Perspective, part of the Christopher Peter Review. The major fear when the whole global tariff campaign began on Liberation Day in April was that the United States economy and the global economy may experience additional sticker shock on top of the elevated historic inflation that was the Biden economy. There were some legitimate fears around this, not just because of economic reasons, but political ones as well. While the United States is in a good position to prevail in most trade wars, there would be great uncertainty and unpredictable timing not ideal. Just because you can win a conflict does not always mean that it is worthy of participating in. And that really was the fear of some economists. Left-leaning people simply wanted to oppose any Trump idea regardless of the long-term benefits. Now, a few months later, the data points are showing that the fear is unwarranted. Despite Democrats trying to sell a rather hypocritical message about cost increases, the impact on inflation is nowhere near the inflation they pushed onto the American public without any long-term benefit. They brought on historic levels of inflation in days simply to appease a fringe agenda in the face of strife. The tariffs have brought historic investments and trade deals. Why have the tariffs not exploded inflation to a level that the left can pass the buck?
What was the purpose of the tariffs? The stated purpose was to rebalance global trade. Let us talk about trade. There are benefits to engaging in global trade. Every nation has different competitive advantages than others, either through natural occurrences related to skills inherent from cultural development over time. Some nations have access to unique resources or have certain skill sets that can be exchanged for resources and skill outputs they lack. The idea behind trade is that everyone gets the full plate without having to possess the skills for each dish. That basic framework works effectively as long as all parties operate in a transparent manner and without protectionism. Under the guise of globalization and free trade, we have been somewhat trained to believe that there are no barriers to trade anymore and no infractions, and to perceive trade imbalances as a sign of quality differences. But that is not exactly accurate. Or always accurate. Sometimes we think that by default but are not aware of the reality. As we have discussed in Trade with Tariffs, the purpose of the tariff campaign by the Trump administration was to achieve a rebalance of trade by strongly encouraging our trade partners to remove barriers and restrictions impacting sales for our American companies, and eliminate the behaviors that act like barriers and protectionist programs, and simply just commit to buy more American goods and services. The benefits from the tariff campaigns have been trade deals that have removed barriers for American products, reducing the tariff impact and making it more balanced to a degree. And most importantly, the commitments on purchasing goods, services, and energy as well as the investments in our domestic economy. During a trip to the Middle East alone, our allies in the region pledged a total of about $2 trillion in investments into the American economy. Now, we will still have to see how that pans out, but those are significant. Certain trade deals that should have happened before also came to fruition, like with our strongest ally in the United Kingdom of Great Britain and recently the European Union. As we are a significant ally to them on the diplomatic front, we should naturally be an economic partner as well, especially for energy. Hopefully, we can finalize ones with Japan and find common ground with Canada and Mexico as well. What about the risks? The biggest risk with the tariffs was the potential that prices would rise for Americans, who already experienced historic inflation under Joe Biden. Those same Democrats that brought you that inflation jumped on the message that tariffs are a tax and projected that inflation would grow on top of what they already hoisted on the American consumer. But it did not. The inflation rate is holding steady for the most part. The tariffs are a tax mantra is a clever political quip, but it is misleading. Tariffs are not exactly impactful in the same way a tax is. Tariffs can be avoided by simply buying the domestically produced item or one that is purchased under an existing trade agreement. A tax is levied against every good, service, or person in that class to be taxed, so it is unavoidable unless spending is completely ceased. Again, back to my inflation lesson from the prices we